Welcome back to the Finding Flow podcast. I just want to take a quick second to thank our sponsors, the Inflow Wellness Academy, located in Plymouth, Michigan. They offer some amazing services that can help you better achieve these states of flow by optimizing your health and your wellness. Their services include personal training for general population, for athletes, for just about anybody. They offer pain modalities like massage therapy, laser therapy, yoga, durability classes, and they're experts in nutrition and supplementation. So if you're really looking to take your health and your body and your wellness to the next level, that's the place to be. That's the place to seek out. You can find them at inflowacademy.com. You can find them on Facebook and YouTube at Inflow Wellness Academy and on Instagram at Inflow Academy. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get the ball rolling.
Everything changes.
What's going on, guys? Welcome back to another episode of the Finding Flow podcast. I'm Kevin Lowers alongside the great and powerful and wise one,
Coach Benjamin Knapp.
Holy shit, that was like a super intense introduction. I actually got goosebumps right now.
Quite a podcast.
I got like my goosebumps are actually sticking out of my skin right now.
When I bring my voice down to this level, everybody's going to know it's going to be pretty important.
I know you guys probably won't believe this right now, and obviously we don't have the video to go along with the audio, but Ben actually is not sitting in a chair. Nope. He's just levitating.
I'm in the lotus position, and I'm levitating.
He's levitating all the way at like table height. Like perfect.
Would you like me to change my height?
Can you?
I think I could.
How high can you
Although at my age, I might have a little dangling below. It's not as compact.
I guess with age and wisdom comes levitation.
And actually, the desire for other things to hang and get closer to the earth.
So levitation does not account for gravity in certain aspects of your body.
Correct.
Of your body.
Correct. Like the bottom side of your...
Super interesting.
Yeah.
Super interesting how that works.
It's interesting. But just ask me.
Any studies been done on that?
No, just the one I'm conducting right now. I'm collecting data right now.
Well, either way, it's always...
I can tell you this ground is cold.
It's always a pleasure to be in the presence of a levitating monk that never trained to be a monk.
Happy to be here.
Yeah, man.
So. Yeah, it's funny. I'll tell people, I'm like, like meditation. They're like, kind of like if you're going to be a yoga instructor. I'm like, oh, well, you got to go, you want to study the art of it, and you want to really, really learn about the origin and where it comes. And I'm like, no. Like, give me the Udemy course on what the fuck is meditation, and I'm just going to move forward, okay? I do not need to know the origin of everything. I just need to know how to use it and why I'm using it.
That was like me when I was in school for massage therapy, and we had like a large section on the history of massage, and it just didn't make any sense to me. So I actively chose to not put a lot of effort into it. And then when I when I had to take my NBLEX, which is like the licensing exam, it's like one of those smart exams. So you have like, a percentage of different, anatomy, physiology, technique, and then history, of course, is on there because it's super important to know, who was doing massage in the early 50s and, where it originally came from in order to actually give a good deep tissue massage. Usually, I start all my massages by telling people the backstory of massage. Seems to be very productive.
Hi, I'm Kevin. Yeah. And before we actually start the massage that you paid for, I'd like to tell you a little bit about it.
That'll be $70. Sorry, I don't actually even give you any like manual therapy on the first session.
Not for your
We just talk about the history.
Yeah.
But yeah, of course, I'm taking this test and it's like anatomy, physiology, technique, just crushing. And the test is like responsive. So like if you're doing well and testing well in a certain subject, they move on. So like you might have like 80 questions or you might have like 300 questions, depending on how like back and forth you are with material. And so, like, I go through and I get a few questions on all the things I know, and then when this part on, like, the history comes around, like, it just keeps asking me questions.
Well, I answered C last one, so I'm going to go B this one.
Yeah, so in my own stupid head, I'm like, I'm just bombing these, because if I keep getting questions, I'm clearly not doing a good job, so it's obviously registering that I don't know what I'm talking about, so it's going to keep asking me questions.
It's funny, I was interested back in the day, which I no longer am. And like one of those, like another certification, because that's why people do business with you, because of your certifications. But I looked at it like that NASM, right? And I had the whole course. And now there is some, neat stuff on there. But knowing what I know now, it's like all the course talks about, well, I don't want to say all of it in case I offend anybody, but it seems like a lot of the course is about, again, it's about statistics and studies and one in a, and did you know that 6 out of, and I'm just like, I don't don't get the importance of that at all. Is that you're trying to tell me that because there's so many ACL injuries that come from non-contact that I need to be looking for that when I'm training people? Well, you could have summed that up in a paragraph. It's like, I thought that's what the whole point was, is to keep people from injury, right? So I don't know. My brain doesn't work that well. My brain doesn't really care anything. I like using history as like a comparison. Again, it's like that, are we becoming more enlightened? Are we becoming more conscious as a society? Well, you can use historical data to say, yeah, like we don't die of starvation anymore, so the world's better in the food department. We don't die at 30 years old, so like we did 100 years ago. So the world is better at creating longevity. So, but I don't need to look that deep. Yeah, today is better than yesterday, and tomorrow will be better today. It's simple as that.
Yeah, and I think like the lens of, like, I love history, so don't get me wrong. Like, when I talk about the massage, I need context to understand things. And like when I can't find like the reason to be learning something, my brain's just like, we're not doing it. Mm-hmm. We're not doing it today. I'm not in. Like, I see no reason in validity in like consuming this information. And then as an adult, and I think most people listening can attest to this, like, we're stretched thin all the time with the way we live and the culture we live in today. Like, so like there is no more room. Like, we need planners because our brain can't contain that much information that's out there. So you got to be very choosy with what you allow into your brain. But to my point is like evolutionary biology and the history of the body and like the human is amazing for understanding why we're still apes, mm-hmm. and why we have these tendencies to like get out of our car and beat somebody with a baseball bat. Absolutely. But we actually all just kind of look at each other and go like, I don't want to go to jail. Culture has kind of created this mesh of like what you should and shouldn't do.
We've improved our ability to rationalize.
Yeah, 100%. So I think in that light, and then again, being in the field that we're in, the health and wellness and fitness field, kind of knowing like how the body evolved and what it evolved for can kind of shape how we train in like both the body and the mind, So that's important to me, and that makes sense. So then my brain goes like, we need to know a lot about this. Mm-hmm. So then I learn it and I love it and I enjoy it because it's useful.
I think history is good for, you could probably fill in just about any subject, whether it be religion, but a lot of principles. I don't think principles of how to live change. Like, principally speaking, it's cool when you can say, oh yeah, I read because when you think about like and we're going to talk a little bit more about that, like sustaining a growth model, like a growth model for business. Like, there are some business principles that are timeless. Like, you can read Think and Grow Rich again in 100 years from now, and principally speaking on I think it's going to be just as relevant, right? But I guess I just don't. But like you said, I like to use like principles in modern times and make it an up to date model. So I think that I wouldn't want to necessarily read like training manuals from 25 years ago because everything's different now. Again, I think you can find training philosophy. I think you can find principles of movement that probably never change, but we're so much more intelligent now, and we have so many more resources that can actually put you on the fast track, and I don't have to read a 500-page.
It doesn't make – it's just the context of like taking information and then trying to figure out like where it can plug in to like actually be useful. And obviously if you look at our entire education system, it's like the opposite of that. Mm-hmm. Like there's no sense in me memorizing every – capital of every state. Like, we have Google.
Right.
Why would I ever... I'm reading this book called Surely You're Joking, Mr. Feynman, all about, what's his name? Richard Feynman. Is it Richard Feynman? I don't know. Famous physicist from like the, early mid-1900s. And he was just talking about like, his experience with the education system and how much time is wasted on just like really poorly thought out contextual learning, like in memorization. It doesn't make any sense when you can just look it up in 5 seconds, right? You waste a whole semester memorizing things that you could look up overnight, instead of like thinking about how to apply the information to like the real world. So even history, like I hated history in school because it was like memorizing really stupid things.
Dead people.
That had no use to me. Like I don't.
Who was the fourth president?
Who cares?
Who gives a shit?
Yeah, what did the fourth president do that made the world better?
Nothing.
Yeah, but if he did, if you taught it to me in that context, maybe if whoever the first president was, or the fourth president was, and I don't even know. I couldn't even tell you. Someone's probably getting so mad right now. But like maybe if he did something that revolutionized the way we look at the world, then I might retain that information. And because it's useful to me, I would be like, the fourth president did this, and that's why we're doing this now, and now we can think about it in this way and apply it to this. But no, it's just like, no, you just need to know his name, and then we got to test you on it, and then if you answer it correctly, then you get a check mark, and if you answer it incorrectly, you get an X, and you're either going to score anywhere from like a 40 to 100 on this, and that's what's going to dictate who you are, how intelligent you are, and how we treat you.
Absolutely.
It's ridiculous.
Yeah, I just, it's like I almost feel like swallowed up, like with having to send my daughter to this automated system that, like, when you talk about like a growth model, so I would want to sit down to whoever's like in charge of education in the country and say, all right, cool, I see your plan. Okay, we've got a little science, a little English, a little math, a little recess. We we get in fist fights on lunch. We've shown we're not getting any better behaviorally. So explain to me where this model is supposed to take people in modern times.
Yeah, not to the industrial line.
Yeah, could you answer? I'm just saying, could you actually tell me, like I would need a really smart person, like you said, a physicist, to tell me why basic math is still important, and maybe there's a certain part of the brain that when you get it doing multiplication tables and stuff like that, it like develops. The next thing you know, you're going to create the next cure. But I don't necessarily see that. I don't necessarily see.
Well, and it's like this. What is it? The Common Core thing that they're implementing now, which is like all about like steps. I mean, it's the most delusional thing ever in 2018. Implement Common Core in like the early mid 1900s, cool. Like you're trying to teach people to be like, step 1, step 2, step 3, step 4, step 5, step 6, step 7, step 8, and here's your conclusion. But like in 2018, it's like how can I eliminate step 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8 and still produce the same result? That's how you get paid in the real world.
Yeah,
like
absolutely.
You get promotions by offering better solutions. So to create this, and it's mind blowing to me that that's where we're going in 2018 with education. You're trying to accentuate steps, and then you grade kids according to their ability to follow the steps. Whereas like if a kid develops a better way to do something, he gets marked down. Feels dumb.
If you don't go the long version on math, but still come to the answer, you're going to get marked down.
And a kid is impressionable. They don't understand like that. It's awesome what they're doing. So they get one teacher that shits on them for thinking of a better way to do something, and then that's going to ruin their entire creative nature to continue to like expand. Like that kid needs to be pulled out. That's why we talked the other day about like we're getting really busy right now, and it's awesome, and we're growing. I think we'll get into that a little bit more through this podcast, like you said. But like we're kind of thinking, like if this takes off, like where will we go with this? Like where will we go with the Inflow name? Me and you were kind of talking about like an academy of learning, like an actual learning academy that kind of maybe fills in the gaps, which is everything with our modern education system. You're not even creating humans in that context. You're creating robots that like can pass tests. It's a skill. You know how many people I know that got straight A's and great ACT scores that like can't hold a conversation or deal with humans and get anxiety in any social situation? Like how effective are you going to be? Like if I went into like hotel management and I graduated summa cum laude, but I have like anxiety when it comes to talking to people, how well am I going to do in that field? Is knowing everything about the books going to allow me to interact with people and
develop a little stutter?
Yeah, I'm getting my blood pressure's rising.
Yeah, I can
thinking
see that.
about it.
Just relax, man. We're not taking it all on right now.
Well, my son's getting ready to go into it, man. Like he's in preschool right now, and it's all just like it's actually kind of cool what they do in preschool because it's just like sensory stuff and playing and interacting with other kids.
It almost seems like they have more freedom. Like the teachers have more freedom.
For sure.
That's who I'd actually like to interview. Like bring me 50 teachers that have been in the industry for 20 years, and because now you have they've had to change their model. It's almost like it's leaned away from education, and now it's like they have so many kids. A lot of it is so many kids per teacher now. So what is the main motivation? I got to try to keep 30 kids somewhat in their chairs for 55 minutes. So tell me how many things can take away from that. And my thing is, when my daughter was young, she was very rational. Like she would get paint on her hands, so she would get up and go wash her hands. And the teacher would be like, "Sophia, what are you doing?" She's like, "Well, I'm washing my hands." And she's like, "Well, yeah, but we're doing this right now. And she's like, yeah, but my hands are dirty. I can't focus on this if my hands are dirty. So if I wash my hands, then I can go and do this. And that was a problem. And so I just said, well, what was the problem? Well, we're afraid if one kid gets up, they're all going to get up. I'm like, has that ever happened?
Yeah.
Like one kid gets up and then everybody just goes, all right, I'll get up.
Yeah,
no, I go, you've got way more animals in that class than you're letting on. I don't know. It's I don't want to call it broken because I'm not smart enough to say that, but you're right. I look back at, that's what when we talk about that book that we both read, that Island or whatever, I think about why a bunch of adults in modern times have to go do therapy, have to go do psychotherapy. And my thing is because we never got taught shit. Our parents never taught us anything. Our community never taught us anything. We get out into the big wide world. We have stimulus coming from all different angles, all kinds of different people, colors, and all these things that we have to think about. And I'm just not prepared for it. So I struggle through 20 years of trying to find myself, and now I go to therapy. You know what I mean? It's so why can't adults actually say, you know what, that system didn't really help me at all. It didn't prepare me for anything.
Nobody ever told me that I would just have a kid and then have to I didn't learn one single thing. The amount of things that I could have learned through a course on manual labor. Especially for men, obviously I don't want to get too involved in this conversation because the world's so sensitive, but there are requirements from the male to the female mind. I was talking with a client who they have a little boy, we were just kind of talking about just the male tendencies at such a young age. At 2 years old, my son just wanted to smash cars together and watch his buildings burn. You know what I mean? That's just it's literally built. It's a built-in system that he just wants to break things and he has to let this monster out essentially. And again, back to the point of kids being locked up and cooped in rooms. Of course they're developing ADHD. You're putting them in chairs.
It's a prison.
For 7 hours a day and teaching them useless content that has no application. I mean, if I could sum up our education system in a few words, that would be it. It would be locking kids into a sedentary position, which obviously we both can attest to, and how damaging that is to your physicality, which obviously damage to your physicality leads to damage to your mentality, right? So you're sitting, so you're pent up, your battery never gets spewed out. We're cutting out recess constantly. You're packing classrooms full of too many kids that are now ADHD because they don't get to let out their energy because they're stuck in school for 7 hours a day, learning things that they have no desire to learn because it's uninteresting and it's presented in a very boring way. I mean, I'm not that far removed from it. I'm only 24 years old. I was just in this trap, and I got to college and it was kind of cool, but I still remember walking into a college class and getting a seating chart. And I was like, the fuck? What?
I'm paying to be here.
I was like, I'm finally alone and you're going to make me have a seating chart? And it's just this idea that the youth, and again, they need guidance, but not in that way. The kids are so much more intelligent than we give them credit for.
Oh, yeah.
I'm watching it right now with my 4-year-old, and he schools me every day. And his complex problem-solving abilities and his curiosity, and that dies. And I think that's to your point, man. I think that's what's killed along the way. And then you get spit out the other end, and now in 2018, people are paid for creativity. People are paid for their mind. They're not really paid for their labor. So once your creativity's crushed and your body's broken down from sitting for 14 years and you just have nothing left, and then now it's you got your degree and you go apply for all these jobs that, they just beat you down. And then
children are think about the school model. My daughter's a daydreamer. And I remember she had this one teacher. I'm sure he's not listening to this, but if he is, then come on in and I can teach you a few things. This is Mr. Rizko. And he's a second grade teacher. So automatically I'm thinking, and he wanted his kids to walk in a line, left, right, file into there. And I'm like, well, who are you doing that for? Is that for you? So all the other, chick teachers in the school can be oh, look at what Mr. Rizko's been able to do or whatever. But he could never get my daughter to stand up straight. He could never get her to not dance around while she's waiting in line to enter her boring classroom. And then she would daydream all the time. So he even told me about this technique that he had that when she was daydreaming, he would take a shoe and he would throw it by her desk and startle her to get her from daydreaming. And that was his technique. So it was almost like I said, so you're. So I went in, of course, had a conversation with him, and couldn't find out he was a CrossFitter, but whatever. Again, very rigid, regimented, don't really know why I'm doing it kind of crap. But anyways, and so I just asked him, I said, well, tell me a little bit about your discipline model. Tell me a little bit about what you're looking for. Tell me, look, what's going to come out of the end of it. And again, it's like a growth model. So you do a year of this because you're going to have these children for a year. What did you hope come out of it? He's like, well, discipline. I said, okay, cool. Okay, so what is that discipline leading to? And that's when I got the blank stare. So that's my question with the growth model. So you were looking for discipline's sake? But I mean, like, why couldn't you be able to tell me, well, we have found that when you start, doing things like this to children between the ages of this and that, by the time they get into their, prepubescent, we're starting to act like this, and then they're a lot more, they have the ability to kind of do things like this. But you can't explain that to me. So you can't even explain your growth model. So you have a style. Mrs. Johnson down the road has a style. Mr. Tate over there, Taint over there, he's got a style. So where's it all going? So it's just an expression of your own personal ego. What's the end result? That's my problem with people. With the lack of a growth model. Like, I just want to ask everybody, what's your fucking point? And if you explain to me your point, enlighten me, I'll be like, you know what, that sounds really cool. Good luck with that. Okay, carry on.
I'm in.
As you were.
Yeah.
But when you can't explain to me what your growth model is, what we hope to come from this, and why we've chosen this form of a discipline. See, I know why in some schools they've added like meditation in place of detention. And it's beautiful because it's creating mindfulness around a situation, right? If everything is a behavior to a takeaway, which a discipline, then so is it just a fear model? Is it just a fear model that I don't want my favorite toys to be taken from me, so I'm going to do what my dad says? Or does the child need to better understand why, you can't do these types of things to your sister? You know what I mean? So it's like nobody seems to have that laid out for me. Nobody seems to be able to, to tell me that if I accomplish these following things, that this is what I hope to get from them. So
yeah, and I think there's like levels to like rationalizing with like a child, right? Like I think there's something to be said about like obviously disciplining your child, maybe like taking something away if they're not acting accordingly, especially in those like younger years, like when they're like maybe like 2 to 4 to 5, depending on where they're at cognitively, right? But at a certain point, there has to be like a graduation to like, okay, like you're a big kid, conscious thinking kid. Like I shouldn't have to take things away anymore to prove a point. Like we should be able to sit down and have a collective conversation about why this is wrong and why you can no longer do this going forward, right? Like, but I think we just get caught in the momentum of that, like I'm the authoritarian and you're not, and I can do whatever I want to facilitate this response, right? So you just kind of start riding that wave of being like that, like drill sergeant, and then you instill, like you said, a state of fear because it is effective. But again, like what's the repercussions in 20 years kind of productive? Like like my dad, I think did a great job, and I a lot of the things that he did from like a disciplinary aspect worked very well. And I take some of those things, but I do think there could have been a lot more like consideration for like my emotional status as a child through that experience, right? Like I don't think it should have been so black and white. So with my son, like I still discipline him, and again, I'm not like some like super parent. Like don't get me wrong, like raising children is no easy task, especially at this age that he's at right now. But I definitely try to wrap up all of my discipline with like a lesson, like a learning moment, and like then I try to like be consoling and like explaining that it's like it's fine, it's not a big deal. Like just learn. Like this is learning. Like you're gonna fuck up, and then you're gonna probably fuck up again, and as you get older, hopefully like the amount of times that you have to fuck up to learn a lesson get less and less. Right? He's at that age right now where it's like it could be a month of me just repeating the same thing, but then like after a month maybe he gets it.
Yeah, it's I do. I think I love referring to our children because again they have such a I refer to it. They see the world through a straw hole. Like everything is like the world's easy, and it's funny. I find like I'm going back to that childlike teaching thing. And to your point, like I used to try to tell Sophia, I want you to get good grades, even though I don't believe in what you're studying and I know it's not doing anything for you, but I need you to just show me the ability to do it. I need you to show me that you can do it, because I can promise you, when I clean the gutters, I'm not excited about it. But I have to be able to prove, as a homeowner, that if I want my roof to last for 25 years, that those are things that you have to do. So I wanted to show tenacity, and so as she's gotten older, like even over the weekend, she loves to build costumes, right? And what are we always wanting for our clients? To help them find flow. And what is flow? Is just being in the moment, being involved in something that that just feels right to you. That's what flow is all about. Even these podcasts, I wouldn't want to sit down and talk about a conversation if I was thinking about being somewhere else. So even when we're having a discussion, you just want to find you want to enjoy what you're doing. So she was just basically locked up in a room for like 2 days, and I'm like, all right, it's time to come downstairs and get some fresh air. Why don't we go as a family and we'll go get something to eat? And she thought about it. And I'm like, what? And she goes, well, do I have to go? And I'm like, well, what would you rather do? She goes, well, I'm just really into my costume right now. And she goes, and I just kind of want to finish it. She goes, so I'd prefer to just stay home. So that was when my ego got challenged. Well, I said it. I said it. It's time to go. I said it's time to eat, and it's time to eat. And I'm like, are you enjoying what you're doing? I go, can I get you something? She's like, I'm good. And I'm like, then flow, baby.
Yeah, and it's a testament to, even at such a young age, the ability to find something you like and just lose yourself in it.
And she did.
And that's, I think, what we're missing as adults is that, like, we get these jobs that, like, you're never in the present moment because you fucking hate it.
Oh, yeah.
You're just daydreaming about other things you'd want to do.
Yeah.
So, again, like, challenging kids to pursue, like, these outrageous things they want to do, like, because if somebody's done it, you can do it. But it's like, how many times has that kid been just shot in the face through, like, the last 10 years of his education, like, for wanting to be an astronaut or for wanting to be a professional athlete? It's just like, oh, that's not realistic. Like, and then you think, and obviously you justify. We go like, well, I'm doing them a service by giving them the reality.
Who's
it's like,
reality?
Yeah, like, what is reality?
Right.
Like, have you, like, how do you, like, what about you gives you validity to talk about what reality even is? Like, do you have any understanding? Have you done any introspective analysis on your own mind and your own self? Have you experienced psychedelic experiences to see what reality looks like under those lenses? Because that happens. Those things happen. Like, and at the end of the day, how do I know that what you're seeing out of your perceptive eye is the same as what I'm seeing? Mm-hmm. So again, reality is not this one finite linear thing, right? You can even use the lens of time with that. Like we were talking, these same clients I was talking to, with the kids when we were talking about like how our young boys are just like prone to destroying things. We were just talking about how like the 2 hours before you get your kid to bed are like the longest 2 hours ever. But it's like as soon as he gets to bed at 7:30, you blink your eyes and it's 10 o'clock. It's interesting how the time sways, and then obviously like visual perception can sway with the right input. Mm-hmm. And it's fascinating that like someone can literally make that statement, like, I'm going to teach you something about reality. Like, what reality? The reality this very boxed reality you've created for yourself to justify paying your mortgage and making sure that your kid does what you want him to do to obviously protect your ego. Mm-hmm. So again, like constantly, and I catch myself all the time being that dick.
Absolutely.
All the time,
and I have to check myself.
Yeah.
I'm like, okay, just because this is important to me doesn't mean it's got to be important to you.
I apologize to my kids so many times throughout the day. Because again, I mean, life hits hard, man. Like when we're we're the busiest we've ever been. We're all working like dogs, which is a good thing. Good problems to have. Growth has to be very intensive before it can relax, right? Mm-hmm. And planning a wedding, just all these different things, right? It's very easy to like have a short fuse with a 4-year-old that like if you're not ready to be patient. So I find myself like having these moments where I'll have to like take a breath, walk back in, apologize for the way I yelled at him or whatever it may be. So
I do it all the time.
Yeah, but again, it's very important that I do that, so he knows going forward that it's not me sometimes, right? Like.
Yeah, I go back to the shoe throwing second grade teacher, and I thought how valuable maybe his tactics would be at the high school level, but I also thought how those people would not respond to things like that. But I did.
Your ass kicked.
But again, that's kind of what we're trying to get to about like maybe the talk is something about like again, a growth model. You know, what does it mean to grow? How do you measure growth, and what do you do when things don't work out the way you thought they were going to work out, and how many people are so unfocused on that, you know? And so I just want to know, you know, so now my growth model with her is I have to allow like a little bit of freedom. Like I've been relentlessly giving her lectures since she was old enough to even make eye contact with me, and now she's 13. So at what point am I going to start letting the leash out a little bit? At what point am I going to start giving her a little bit of room to see if all these years of bitching has even gotten us anywhere? So then if it does, then I can share the how to raise children with the next person, say, well, this is what I did. But again, now I want to see how she expresses herself. Let's see what all the years of school, all the years of me bitching and complaining about what's right and how to live, and let's see what she does with it. You know, so I'm pretty okay with not knowing about her, the way she's going to grow. You know, and
well, I think it's super important to come to the conclusion that there's like you always say, there's a lot of different routes to the watering hole, you know.
Yeah.
And like for me, I'm always trying to go the path like of least resistance, which just happens to be the path that I guess most people don't take, in my opinion. You know, like even things like micromanaging, like my son's like when he eats, right? Like he can't really make his own food yet, but he eats when he's hungry. Like he's in this beautiful state right now that I don't ever want him to get away from, but he will eventually. Obviously, like if you're a human in this generation, there's no way you're eventually gonna like be bombarded with the realities, and I say that loosely, of like existence and culture. Like eventually he's gonna have to look at his clock and go, I gotta be there at this time. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, I don't want that to ever come, like, because it's just so beautiful. He lives in the moment. When he's hungry, he comes and tells me, and I make him some food, and he eats, and then he stops eating when he's full. You know, like I've had people tell me that like when he has behavior problems, it's because he's not on an eating schedule. And I was like, you don't even understand how food works. Like I do this for a living. Like I try to teach all my adult clients to eventually get to an intuitive eating schedule because it's less stressful.
Eat when you're hungry.
Yeah, no people for hundreds of thousands of years ago didn't look at their arm and go, yep, it's lunchtime. You know what I mean? Like they might not eat for fucking days. You know, so the ability to sustain, you know, physicality and health like is very wide and varied, but it's just amazing. Same with his sleep, you know, like we've just recently started implementing a pretty strict sleep schedule because he's got to go to school now. So like you're starting to see how the structure, I think, it interferes with like probably the best way for your kid to like go about life. Like my 4-year-old shouldn't be getting up at 7 a.m. Like
nope.
The kid
they've proven that.
Oh, for
they've
sure.
Proven that,
like
yeah.
I mean, he's got to go to bed at like 7 o'clock to get up that early, and the kid loves to stay up at night.
Sun's out. You guys are up. Everybody's home. You just got home from work.
Yeah, but he needs like 14 hours to sustain growth.
Right.
You know, so it's but continuously kind of challenging like that. And again, I think we kind of talked about a few different ideas to kind of highlight on this podcast, but I kind of like where this has gone. It's kind of been all over the place, but all kind of leading towards the same idea of, you know, this kind of tribe mentality and this idea of like, with this sustained growth that we've had over the last couple months, which has been great, you know, we're kind of getting this different perspective of what we want out of the future of our company. And it's kind of like we want to have like a very rigorous way to identify who's going to fit well here, because like we're creating a tribe, like a culture that I want my son to be a part of. You know what I mean? Because it's just a bunch of like-minded people that are open-minded, trying to grow in any different possible way, are feeding off each other, are showing up every day, and aren't getting caught up in the minutia of life outside of this little bubble that we've now created. You know what I mean? So, you know, it's not a cult, so I swear, but it almost seems like it could be.
What is it? What is
yeah,
a cult?
I guess by definition,
you know,
it
I'm
could
okay
be.
with it.
If you're the leader, then it's a cult.
You better believe it, bro.
But yeah, it's cool, man. But it is interesting as I find myself in more social situations, obviously with my son starting school and interacting with other parents and their kids, and just kind of seeing like how much differently I see the world, I think, from like the average person. And again, I don't really know if it's a good or a bad thing yet. I like to think, after all the books I've read and, you know, all the different people I've surrounded myself with and where I'm currently at, that it is a very good thing, because I'm happy. You know, I'm like very, very happy. And I think if I create a very, very happy life for myself, then like it'll just feed into my son's life. And I've just gotten to this point where I just go like, don't tell me how to raise my kid. Like, you can give, like, I'd love to hear what you got to say, but don't tell me what I need to do and what I don't need to do. Because I don't think you have it figured out either. Right. I don't think any of us do.
Within the tribe, though, you could allow people to.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Well, then again, even the people in the tribe, it's like you create this very comfortable way of like expressing ideas and then being able to say like, that's ridiculous. But like it's friendly. You know, it's never aggressive because, I mean, we all say stupid shit. We're probably saying a lot of stupid shit right now.
And that's impossible.
Yeah, you're levitating
that's
still.
Impossible.
This is like, just so you guys know.
As long as on record.
Is like almost 35 minutes of levitating.
They say you can only have like blips of enlightenment. I obviously can go a lot more than a blip.
Yeah, we need to figure out a way to like just strap electrodes to your brain.
And I don't even have to talk anymore.
So like, yeah, seriously, like I want to know what's going on in your subconscious. I had this very deep thought the other day about the future of like learning and like how we're going to accelerate beyond where we're at today, and my thought process was that we're going to eventually be able to again strap some sort of electrodes to your brain and basically like suck out whatever it is that your subconscious brain is thinking. So like the things that like are going on in there that you can't like rationalize and pull to the front and then like articulate. And we're going to be able to pull that out of your brain and like dissect it in some sort of language and then use it.
We need to do like Joe Rogan does where he has people like Googling shit.
It's probably already out there,
Well,
dude.
because there is something, Doc Borg, the amazing Dr. Elizabeth Borg talks about this, that they have a consciousness little thing that they can replace your consciousness. They can replace your brain's ability to connect with the cosmos.
It's coming, man. However it ends up coming, like obviously the download of it's the subconscious that fascinates me because like downloading consciousness and like maybe like downloading like your forefront thoughts, like that seems like it's not too far away maybe. I mean, probably really far away, but I say that in the context of the way we're growing right now technologically. Like it could be like 10 years and we're all just robots. I don't even know at this point because there's so many people predicting that are really way smarter than me that like, and like it goes on both ways, anywhere from 10 years to like 100 years. But again, like if they can somehow extrapolate, you know, the subconscious where like this part of the brain that, you know, you can't really pull forward and articulate, it'll be interesting to see what that brings for innovation.
I know I go back. So when I think about like my personal growth model, I think along that point, that's what it's like. I talk about you are the sum of all your thoughts, your actions, and your beliefs. So each day, you know, you're supposed to, you know, obviously I despise the man who's no smarter today than he was yesterday. In other words, every day fucking learn something, right? Because I know you've forgotten something. But it's interesting. So as far as like if thoughts and books and podcasts are like a mental Rolodex, you know, like so in other words, if let's say I'm gonna react to a situation, whatever that situation is, positive, negative, whatever. You know, I would imagine, you know, there's a lot of our responses and our words that are automated. You know, that's part of the subconscious. And so if you've never read a book before, chances are your automated response is going to be the exact same from the time you're 15 to the time you're 55. You're just going to be like, screw you, dude, and get up and get into a fist fight. But if at some point you start reading, maybe go to church or whatever you people do. But, you know, and obviously the next time there's one of those situations, I think the Rolodex has changed, and that means the subconscious has changed. So you're going to be able to rely on a new altered conscious reaction. You know what I mean? So going back to our growth model. So if I'm constantly changing, if I'm constantly feeding my brain new material, new data, that means every however many years you completely refill your Rolodex. Like I'm going to always be thinking differently. You know, so that's what's interesting. Like when we talk about like our business growth model, like. We're at a growth that I can promise you 7 years ago I would have thought that this level was just probably not ever going to happen. But we're here now, and I can promise you it's not like I imagined it. It's nothing like I imagined it, which is actually so cool. So to me, the growth model is all about the moment model. It's all about being right here, right now. And so it's like if you give yourself 5 minutes to meditate every day, like you look around and you're like, yeah, you're still attached to the ground. You know, I didn't see the hand of God come through the clouds, and all I did was sit there and breathe for 5 minutes. So what's the point? Well, I think it's moments like these. That's the point. You know, it will. You'll get the point when you need to get the point.
Yeah, and I think it's just like, again, like back to the shoe-throwing second-grade teacher, like disciplines need purpose, right? And like disciplining yourself to develop powerful habits is, I think, the 100% the difference maker in success and failure. I mean, again, like I know people that everybody has habits, and you just have to like maybe write down every habit that you have and then say, is it growing me or destroying me? Is it hypertrophy or atrophy? Like, right. Is it building me up or breaking me down? You know, and then you assess those and you say, it's kind of like that rule of 168 that we did a podcast on. I love that idea about like, have you created a positive tipping point this week? Was at least half of those hours and or more, or like a little more than half of those positive? And if it was, then like we're going somewhere. But if it's not, we're going backwards.
Absolutely.
Same thing with habits. You know, this is something that I've been doing a lot for myself lately, just because obviously with busy times comes like a reevaluation of the way you do things.
Yeah.
You know, so like where I once could train very easily during the day, I no longer can. It's like I got to really figure out a time to fit it in. And we're up at 4 a.m. and I'm here till 8 p.m. So, you know, I'm tired. Like it's like
I just yawned.
Yeah, it's like I need my midday nap. Yeah. Like where I once could train because I was up at 6 a.m. You know, now I just by the time I get home, like I'm just not getting the 8 hours that I probably need at 24 right now to really like feel recovered and refreshed and good to go. So like priority shifts, so habit shifts. So it's a constant again reevaluation and growth. So growing, I think, needs to shapeshift those habits, and you need to always assess those habits. And again, like I think that's something that we're doing really well right now is we're having these meetings and we're assessing like the growth, and we're figuring out like in advance like what do we got to do to make sure that we don't diminish our level of service, because we've recently gotten, you know, some people from other places that we're not going to speak of that like
you know who you are.
Yeah, that are really
Thank you.
And again, me and Dan were talking about this yesterday about how easily you can become successful being shitty. Mm-hmm. Like, because you have a name and you once did something great and you're riding a wave that is crashing, you know, and I think like luckily I think we all do enough self-analysis to go like we don't ever want that. I think that's why our perspective of now is like maybe we just like get like a few more people and we close our doors. Mm-hmm. Because again, like, you know, growth can lead to death because, you know, if you stretch yourself too thin, you stop providing the service that you once provided, like people are going to see that and you're going to lose them. And
I've been training people since well, I guess I could honestly say on the map since 2009. You know what I mean? And it's funny. Again, we get busier. You would think automatically I'd be like, I got this, bro. But rather, we're taking our weekly meetings and we're starting over. Like, all right, we got to go back to being a new kind of a coach, a different kind of a coach. So we're looking at how many bodies we have on the floor, and now it's like, are we designing programs that can, one, keep the flow on the floor going, still achieve the take home points we want each of our client to achieve, and then we're also now passing responsibility onto the client. And we now say, hey, thank you for helping us, you know, get to this point and sustain growth. But now we need you to create a new discipline. And that's a discipline of self-starting. It's a discipline of, again, staying on task even if my eyes for some reason were to flip away from you for a minute. So it's, again, I would not have thought that's what would have had to have taken place for us to continue to sustain growth. But now I'm thankful for all those, again, call it the last 5 years of 5-minute meditation here, a book read here, a walk in nature here, because now, like, I don't feel panicked at all. Like, I don't feel worried about it. But think about when you're making like $2,000 a month, how much worry there was for if I was, you know, doing everything the right way. And now I think it's growth is acknowledging that we're doing things the right way. And it's also, and I'm very comfortable with saying I have no idea how we're going to get to the next level, but I know that we will, and I know we'll be fine when we get there. So it's interesting. It's like almost like that unplanned model of growth, and it's still it always goes back to the internal. It always goes back to prepare yourself for the next big moment. You know, so
and I think we've had a lot of good feedback from people just talking about the environment of what we're creating. And again, I think like these podcasts and if anybody's been listening, I think you've gotten a pretty good taste of like who we are, you know, and how we think and how this is not a linear business. Like we are not just like strength coaches. Like we never even talk about strength and conditioning at all. And that's like what we primarily do for a living. I never talk about massage therapy other than talking shit about the licensing exam being stupid and my entire education, half of it being completely useless and a waste of my time.
I want my money back.
Yeah, seriously. Like, I mean, it's good for the cookie cutter human that's been, immersed in like the common form of education that's like obviously very regressed and universalized, if that's even a word, like where it's got to be this big blanket so it can help the worst person and then somehow still get the best.
No
person.
child left behind.
Yeah, like you got like I could have done their program in a month. I could have done a 20-hour Udemy course and gotten more out of it than an entire year.
Fast track me.
Yeah, and then again with the trade schools, you basically get your points by showing up. So I have to sit through these 4-hour lectures while idiots talk to me about like business ethics. I'm like, why you like that's not like an A plus B equals C type of like curriculum. You can't. It's so diverse. It's so comprehensive, and then like. Again, I'm getting on a tangent here, but like my teacher
blood pressure's back up again.
No, I'm calm about it now. I'm gone. I'm out of there.
You should see his face; it's purple.
Yeah, seriously, I'm not levitating over here. I fell.
With that little rant he just had, my feet just touched the ground.
Yeah, they finally.
So
he's been sinking like
I'm
a quarter
done.
inch for like every minute for the last 25 minutes, and
when we talk about those people,
yeah, man. But I think it's a testament to. I mean, back to my point, like we've been getting a lot of good feedback about just like. The culture, the environment, the level of care. I think if we sustain that, then, we'll keep growing. And whatever that means, whether that means having to get more people in here to help us out, which, again, that's a scary thought because, again, like, this is our baby. We've created this in a certain way. And, like, I don't think, like, when you have a level of care in something you created, it's hard to bring people in and, like, create that level of care within them. Because you hire people, they see themselves as employees. So.
But we talk about our tribe. So like a good company, we're only going to promote from within. It's got to be. You can't just be a good coach. Like you've just got to be a great human.
100%.
And
that's the big one, man.
I can see my school. I can see my curriculum. It's going to be 4 hours a day of Stoic philosophy, and then probably an hour a day of basket weaving.
Yeah, seriously. Like
for mindful practice.
Let's go shoot some archery.
Absolutely.
Let's go rock climbing.
Yeah, I shot guns.
Yeah.
On Friday. That was a flow state.
Yeah.
I can promise you, I didn't think about traffic or emails.
Oh, dude, when I have a compound bow and like I have a really small yard, but I still bought a block and I'll just take like 10-yard shots and just like really focus on like obviously it's a really short distance, but I'll just focus on like getting that bullseye every time and you just get in the zone, man. You can find that within anything, and that's the thing you got to teach kids. It's like there is no, like becoming a lawyer and a doctor so you can make it like that's just one way to go about life, and like most of the people that I've talked to that are lawyers and doctors, like they don't want to be lawyers and doctors. Like by majority that I've talked to, granted there's a ton of people out there I'm sure that like that's what they love, that's what they want to do, that's what they're doing, but Ben's looking at the timer. We always tell it. We
say we're going to do a 20-minute podcast.
Yeah, no, we're both good at talking. That's for fucking sure.
Well, especially I love hearing myself. Yeah, I love it. I knew we had one of our clients was in earlier, and he wanted to sit in on our podcast because he heard me mention something about. He goes, "Oh, you guys are doing a podcast? What are you talking about?" I'm like, "I don't know what we're going to end up talking about." I said, "But I wanted to talk about sustaining a growth model, like being prepared for the ebbs and flows of life, right?" And so I think that if there's a such thing as a take-home point, it's like I think everything just goes back to, again, the power of now, being in the moment, and what are you doing in your moment that's actually creating any form of a benefit. It doesn't have to be all like work and study and podcasting, but what else is a benefit to your life? A meal, a nap, calling an old friend on the phone that you've been kind of avoiding for a while. You know what I mean? It's like so. It's cool, man. It's cool how everything comes back to the moment and how being aware of the moment, being mindful of the things you do, anything from the way you chew your food to your gait when you're on a walk, and just how it prepares you for your growth model. It's always you're always going to be ready because you can rationalize. You can if you're making a little bit less money, you can rationalize and you can use that as a way of spending more time doing something else. And if you are making money, well, let's maybe learn how to save it and learn how to spend it, ethically. So it's a beautiful thing to not have to have it all figured out.
Yeah, and you never will.
Right
before you start getting to the point where you have a little bit of it figured out, you die.
Yeah, right.
You know what I mean? So it's that's why for me it's always been. I've had a very curious mind since I was just a little kid. I've always been that way. I've always had a hard time in like conventional models of everything. Because I've always asked a lot of questions and been curious to why. And when I'm not like fed a reason, then I rebel. I've always been that way. Like that whole like you just got to do it kind of thing just doesn't work.
Oh, dude, that just reminds me. It's beautiful because I think my daughter's on a very similar pattern. Because I remember, like, I've tried to spank her like once her whole life. And I'm cool if people want to spank their kids. I'm totally cool with it. Sometimes you got fucking bratty kids that you've popped up on. By the way, it's your fault. You put them on too much sugar and allowed them to be in front of the TV too long. But then you spank them. Like, I'm totally cool with that. But what's funny is, like, I forget exactly what she did, but I, like, spanked her. And as, like a 4-year-old, she goes, Daddy, like, why are you hurting me? Like, why are you physically hurting me? And I'm like, it's a really good question. I have no idea. I don't know because this has nothing to do with like what I'm trying to teach you. And never spanked her again. And it was a very rational question. Like, okay, I know I did that, but why are you like physically harming me for that? And I'm like, I don't know.
Yeah, I go down rabbit holes with my kid now because he knows that I do my best to answer questions and not just like lash out with
because I said so.
Yeah, like because that's easy.
That's how.
And again, I do it every once in a while, like every other parent, but I really try hard not to. But he's in this phase where like he'll just keep asking questions, going deeper and deeper, and then you just
eventually you'll get to because I said so.
Yeah, eventually you're just like just leave it there. Like that's enough.
You should have to have 3 answers for every one because I said so.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, at least trying to shape his brain and like give him some reason to why we do certain things or why I want certain things. And again, like I think my fascination with like learning, I guess, in the global context is that it allows me to like better answer my son's questions. You know, so like if I'm an idiot, I'm ensuring that my kid's going to be an idiot.
Absolutely.
You know, and again, like I say idiot as in like making an attempt to continue to learn and grow, right? Like I know really smart kids that just they don't ever do anything that's productive in their life, you know, but they're just inherently smart, whatever that means, right? Like maybe they can retain information really well, but then they're just lazy, right? Which sucks. So I've always tried to, I think, make it a point to like, I mean, this life is very short and finite, right? Like, you know, in retrospect to the world and the universe, like this, we are a blip on a blip on a blip on a blip. So me personally, I'm going to try to like consume and like figure out as much of it as I can. Because again, I'm going to die and God willing, my son will be left behind. And like, I'm hoping to just pass on and then he can do the same. You know, I already explained to him that I'm like, when you have kids, you should be better than I am at this. Mm-hmm. And then your son should be better than you are. Yep. And that's how that's supposed to work. Yep. That's called evolution. Like you get better and you adapt. You know, and that's the same thing with our business. Like, who we are today will not be who we are tomorrow. Like, we'll figure out clever ways to resolve issues. And again, like you always say, we're solution-minded here. Mm-hmm. So it's an exciting time, man. I'm glad I was like out last week with some illnesses, and it's good to be back here speaking to our very large audience of 6 million people.
I think we've hit like 6.1.
6.1
over the last. You know,
661.
6.1.
6.1. Like
somebody's only half or like a tenth listening.
Yeah.
Hey, we don't care because, you know, again, this podcast is all about it's our personal growth model. We, Kevin brought it to the table. It was his idea, and we dedicate ourselves to creating the time to do this. And I learn every time we come on. We say it on a lot of our podcasts, so I'm always thankful for the conversation. But that's what it is. It's like it's the beautiful thing about not having to have everything all figured out. But as long as we're just putting in, just trying to get something, take a chunk out of life's ass every single day that I'm awake. I'm thankful for it, and I can promise you everything is linear to a certain extent. You know what I mean? Everything has something to do with everything, you know, to a certain extent. So
it's all interconnected.
I think it was like I always tell, I'm like, you know what? We could have been this successful years ago, but I just wasn't ready. Like the universe has been ready for me for as long as I've been thinking of it, but it just needed me to do the action steps and to get right in the mind to provide me with something that's been waiting for me the whole time.
Yeah, it's like that. What was that book that was written all about like manifesting like your future? I'm trying to think of the name of it.
Well, I
don't know if Oprah Winfrey was like a huge. I don't know if she wrote it or if she was a big proponent. Like talked a ton about it. But it was essentially just talking about like how you set like a vision board and you believe in it. But like so many people were setting vision boards and like actively every day like believing in like visualizing their success, but then weren't doing anything. So people were getting like angry that it wasn't working, which is ridiculous, you know. So to your point, like it's one thing to visualize it, create vision boards, have, you know, manifest, like try to manifest things, but it's never going to work unless you're doing the action steps day in and day out. Day. So I think it's cool because, again, we're pushing each other to all become better humans every day. Absolutely. And pushing our clients are pushing us, and like I said, it's a super exciting time. I'm pumped up for the future of what we got going, and
the short and the long term,
and how I mean, we get to sit here and talk shit at 1:00 in the afternoon, like. Most people are working right now. We're just talking shit.
Poor saps.
Yeah, man. It's good, man.
But if you being stationed at your desk allowed you to tune into the Finding Flow podcast, and we're all thankful for your asshole boss that doesn't let you leave for lunch.
Yeah, right. Meanwhile, he doesn't know that you're just plotting. You're fucking out.
Yeah, just make sure you have 2 screens open on your computer. So as Lundberg walks by, make sure you click back to your TPS reports.
Literally, for all I know about like human nature, and I think we've talked about it on here about, you know, how we're just like a snap. We're one 30-day blackout away from killing each other like in masses. Like the last thing I would ever do if I was ever in control of other people would be to be an ass. Because I'd just be like, if I had 30 employees and I was a dick to all of them, the likelihood of one of them killing me is probably
very high. Very high.
You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
So this is definitely not something people think about.
You know, hey, you should. If you're an asshole, somebody's trying to kill you as we speak.
To all the kids I ever bullied, I apologize. Because like, if I could have my brain now, that's the last thing I would have done.
And for all you people that did bully me when I was younger, you're lucky that I found meditation.
Yeah, not a gun. All right, man. Cool. So anything else you want to say here to close it out?
No, man, just thankful for our audience and thankful for these opportunities. So we'll come up with another amazing topic to discuss with you guys next week.
And I'll work on getting a video camera in here so you can see this insane levitation that Ben seems to be
if you
mastered.
Think you're ready for it.
Alrighty, guys. Thanks for tuning in, and we will see you next time. Thanks again for tuning in, guys. Just want to give a quick shout to our sponsor, the Inflow Wellness Academy, located in Plymouth, Michigan. Make sure you check them out at inflowacademy.com, on Facebook and YouTube at Inflow Wellness Academy, and Instagram at Inflow Academy. Mention that you're a listener of the Finding Flow podcast and receive some awesome discounts on our exceptional services over at the Inflow Wellness Academy. These services include personal training through semi-private and private. We offer yoga, massage therapy, laser therapy, group classes, just about anything you need to optimize your life. We'll guide you through nutrition. We'll guide you through supplementation. We'll help you build a strong mind and help you achieve a better state of flow on the day-to-day basis. So make sure you check them out. And once again, thanks for tuning in to the Finding Flow podcast.